Most people remember Max Baer Jr. as Jethro Bodine, the lovable but not so bright cousin from the Beverly Hillbillies. The show was a huge hit in the 1960s, pulling in millions of viewers every week. It was goofy, fun, and full of heart, and Jethro's character quickly became a fan favorite. He was the country boy who thought he could be a brain surgeon, a double-knot spy, or a Hollywood star. And Max Baer Jr. played him so well that it's hard to imagine anyone else in the role. But what most people don't know is that playing a character that iconic can come with a downside, especially when it comes to ownership. Even though Max was the face of Jethro for nearly a decade, he didn't actually own any part of the character. That right belonged to CBS and the production company behind the show. And years after the show ended, that fact would come back to bite him in a way most actors would never expect. After the show was over, Max struggled to find other acting roles. Like a lot of actors from hit TV shows, he got typecast. No one wanted to hire him for serious roles, they only saw Jethro. So instead of chasing parts that didn't exist, he tried something different. He wanted to turn the fame he had into a business, one built around the character that made him famous in the first place. That's when things got complicated. Max had an idea to create a chain of themed restaurants, casinos, and attractions based on the Beverly Hillbillies, using Jethro's name and image. He thought it was a clever way to keep the legacy alive while building a successful business. But there was a problem. Legally, he didn't own the rights to Jethro Bodine. And when he tried to use that name, he found himself facing a major legal threat from the very people who helped create the character in the first place. Max Baer Jr. had a clear vision. He wanted to open a series of Beverly Hillbillies-themed venues, starting with something called Jethro's Beverly Hillbillies Mansion and Casino. The idea was bold but smart. Tap into nostalgia and turn it into a profitable business. He even planned to build the first one in Nevada, where themed casinos were already popular. For fans of the show, it sounded like a fun throwback. But to make it work, Max needed the legal rights to use the characters, names, and themes from the show. So, Max approached CBS, the network that had aired the Beverly Hillbillies, to try and license the rights. At first it seemed like things might work out. He entered into talks and even made some progress. But as time went on, the negotiations got messy. According to Max, CBS became difficult to deal with. He said they were dragging their feet and playing legal hardball, while he was trying to build something both respectful and entertaining. Eventually, Max Baer Jr. decided to move forward anyway. He believed he had some legal rights to use the Jethro name, especially in ways tied to his own image and legacy. He thought that because he was Jethro in the eyes of the public, he should be allowed to build off of that persona. But CBS didn't see it that way. They threatened to sue him if he used any of the show's intellectual property without their full permission. It was a strange and frustrating situation. Max Baer Jr., the actor who made the character famous, was now being told he couldn't use that same character to build his post-acting life. It wasn't just about legal papers or business plans anymore. For Max, it felt personal. He had spent years being Jethro, and now the people who once benefited from his work were standing in the way of his future. The conflict between Max Baer Jr. and CBS dragged on, and it highlighted something a lot of people don't realize about Hollywood. Actors don't usually own the characters they play. Even if someone plays a role for years, the studio or production company typically holds the rights. In Max's case, this meant that even though he was the face, voice, and personality behind Jethro Bodine, CBS had full control over the name and image. That might seem unfair, especially considering how closely Max was tied to the character. But in the world of entertainment law, it's all about contracts and copyrights. CBS argued that any use of Jethro's name or the Beverly Hillbillies brand, whether in a casino, restaurant, or even merchandise, had to be approved by them. And if Max didn't play by their rules, they were ready to take him to court. Still, Max didn't give up easily. He kept pushing forward with his business ideas. He even got as far as buying land and announcing his plans to the public. Fans of the show were excited, and the media started picking up the story. There was real momentum building. But behind the scenes, the legal roadblocks continued. Every step he took seemed to come with a warning letter or threat from CBS. Eventually, the legal pressure took its toll. Max had to put many of his plans on hold. Some investors backed out, worried about getting caught in the legal mess. It wasn't just about money anymore, it was about rights, control, and legacy. Max had hoped to turn Jethro's fame into a lasting business. Instead, he found himself stuck in a battle over who truly owned the character he helped create. For Max Baer Jr., the most frustrating part wasn't just the legal battles, it was feeling like he was being shut out of his own legacy. After all, without him, Jethro Bodine might not have become such a beloved character. Fans didn't tune in for CBS executives, they tuned in to watch Max bring Jethro to life with his big smile, goofy charm, and hilarious misunderstandings. But in the eyes of the law, none of that gave him ownership. What made it harder was that Max wasn't trying to remake the show or steal anything. He wasn't filming a reboot or claiming to own the Beverly Hillbillies itself. He just wanted to use the character he made famous as the face of a business, one that would honor the show and entertain fans. It wasn't about replacing the show's creators, it was about keeping the spirit of it alive in a new way. But Hollywood doesn't always work on good intentions. It works on contracts, trademarks, and copyrights, and that's where Max kept hitting a wall. Over time, he learned just how protected those rights really are. Even something as simple as calling a place Jethro's could trigger a legal response. It was a crash course in how tight studios hold on to the things they create, even decades later. Still, Max Baer Jr. remained proud of what he had done. He always stood by his work on the show and his efforts to build something new. The idea of a Jethro-themed business wasn't just about money, it was a way for him to stay connected to the fans and memories that had shaped his career. Even if he couldn't use the name the way he wanted, the character would always be a part of him, and millions of viewers around the world. Over the years, Max Baer Jr.'s fight over the Jethro name became a symbol of a bigger issue in the entertainment world. Who really owns a character? Is it the actor who brings it to life or the studio that created it on paper? In Max's case, it was clear that the legal system favored the studio. But for audiences, Max and Jethro were the same person. That connection between actor and role is something no contract can fully capture. Despite the legal setbacks, Max never stopped being Jethro in the eyes of fans. He embraced the role and continued to appear at fan conventions, give interviews, and share stories from the show. He knew how much people loved the Beverly Hillbillies and he respected that legacy. Even though the business plans didn't go the way he hoped, he never turned his back on the character that made him famous. There were moments when things seemed like they might turn around. Max managed to get limited rights through separate negotiations and tried once again to build the themed casino. He even had blueprints and designs made. But by then, time and legal complications had slowed the momentum. Investors came and went, and the project remained stuck in limbo. The dream was alive but just out of reach. Still, Max's determination never faded. He stayed in the spotlight through his own efforts, not as a new character but as Jethro, the one that fans had loved for generations. His story serves as a reminder of how complex the world of show business can be. Talent and fame don't always come with control. And sometimes, the person who gave life to a character is the last one to be allowed to use it. Today, Max Baer Jr. is remembered not only as Jethro Bodine but also as a fighter. Someone who stood up for what he believed was right, even when the odds were against him. His battle over character rights may not have ended the way he hoped, but it brought attention to an issue that affects many actors, especially those tied to iconic roles. His story makes people think twice about what it means to own a piece of pop culture. Even though the themed casino never became a reality, Max's legacy lives on through reruns, fan memories, and the lasting charm of the Beverly Hillbillies. People still laugh at Jethro's wild career dreams, his giant appetite, and his lovable cluelessness. That timeless connection proves that some performances go far beyond the screen, they become part of American entertainment history. Looking back, it's clear that Max Baer Jr. gave everything he had to the role of Jethro. He turned a silly, simple character into something unforgettable. And even though legal contracts couldn't give him ownership of that name, nothing could take away the bond he built with millions of fans. In many ways, he will always be Jethro, not just in the eyes of the audience but in the heart of the character itself. Stories like Max's are a good reminder of how fame and creativity don't always come with freedom. Actors help shape the shows we love, but they don't always get to decide what happens next. Max Baer Jr.'s experience stands as a cautionary tale in Hollywood, one that's just as real as it is frustrating. But more than anything, it's the story of an actor who never gave up on what he helped create.